Okay, my friends, I have come up with an idea of how to get this mud fossil information out there. And what we need is Mudfossil Roadshow. Or not really a roadshow, but just in some little parking lot or somewhere, set up a couple of little tables and show off the things and get people in the area that are interested, and maybe go out on little expeditions in the little river area and break open a few rocks. You know, have mud fossil meetups where people can get together and, you know, have like a little forum, talk about it. Maybe get somebody to have a little microscope like this here. They're not a whole lot of money. Where's it right there? You can buy cheap ones, real cheap ones. And this one's kind of a little more expensive. I think it's about $150. But you need to have something that, you know, you can look at these things and examine them. Right here, just right here, I have 3 different types of mud fossil feet. This is highly eroded, but you can see, oh, this thing's heavy. You can see where actually moss is still growing where the blood was. That right there, I don't know if you can see it or not, that was where a bone was, and this is where another bone was right up here. You have to get them in the right angle to see where the bones were, but that's where the toes were in the front. Now this is in the no-toe version, which this also is a no-toe. I've shown this a million times, and that's where the fibia sits in the main bone there, and I mean the tibia, and the fibula sits on the side here. And this has no toes. These are different than the normal toes. And then you got this one here. This is the crazy one. I call that the Oompa Loompa. Look at the size of this thing. All right, and the same thing here. It laid like this flat when it died, just like that. They were all in the Great Flood. The same thing with this one was in the flood. This was too. And they all preserved in a very similar way. That is more sandstone, so it was just a little different chemistry. This was this very strange architecture of a foot, but it is a foot. And all of this is the arch, and this is like a hide. And that's the style of that particular foot. It's just oddball, a huge bulbous thing in the front. Now this is more sort of tending toward a human foot, but the toes are built in. I call them no toes. And they all have the toes built in. This is not a shoe or anything. That's not a shoe. That's what the feet were built like. Now, that's the kind of stuff, if you had a bunch of people coming and watching and looking at this and talking about it, you'd have a good time, I think. So that's what I'm hoping somebody will set this up. Now, I'm not good at organizing anything. I'd like to do the research, but I'm not good at it, you know, with people and organizing things. Trust me, I'm not good at that at all. But you know, you could actually live stream some of this stuff, just like they do their roadshow thing, where you could have, you know, have a table where you would consider some people to be more advanced than others at understanding the chemistry, the biology, because it's all chemistry and biology. That's what it is. That's it. And the people, you have no idea the kind of things that people in your neighborhood have that you have no idea about. I guess I'm overwhelmed and I feel terrible because I can't help 90% of these people. But look at this. This woman got a hold of me, Kim, and she says, I got this head. What do you think? And, you know, at first I looked at it, I said, wow, that's interesting. And I understand the different textures in like the eye area, the eyebrow and all this. And so I had to take a whole ton of pictures. And it's no question, it was alive at one time. There's some blood coming out of here. Now, where did I show you the rest? These are the creases where you have a different texture to it. And of course, that's the red blood, and it was cracked in the back of its head. You see that? That's red blood coming out of it. This is a red-blooded creature. And that's red blood coming out of that crack in the back of its head. And it has a vein and artery coming up the neck, too. Hold on, what do we got? And here it is again, look at this. That's what it looks like. You see how the lips change a little bit, right around the eyes change? When this is dry as a bone, you don't see any of that. You see, it looks like it was carved. But as soon as it gets wet, you can see these textures come out. Now, this is the neck. This is the chin down here. And the neck goes up this way. That's the neck area. And here's where I think it was a forked tongue. They go over like that. Now these up here, you see the circle? Take your time. You see that circle? You see that circle? That's the vertebrae in the back of the neck. And that's the throat coming up just in front of the vertebra, just like yours does. And the back of your neck, put your hand around the back of your neck, that's this. And the front of your neck is this. And that's your throat. And it looked like it might have a forked tongue coming out of there. That's my impression. But that's the vertebra, and it broke off. Now, where is the vein and artery? Because you have to find all these things or you have nothing. All right, where's the vein and artery? I got it somewhere. All right, it's a little dark, but you can see it. You see this? These are the two right here. One's red and one's black. And they service the neck, the head. And this could have been what it was. This is as close as I can find, which is a white naga. And it had a very similar look to it. And all these braids of hair seem to be coming out of this up here. Now the ear, I don't think I found anything with the ear. This goes back many years ago. I don't find anything with the ear, but I thought maybe the stuff was coming out of the hood here. I don't know, you know what I mean? You know, all of that is just guesses. But then we have all kinds of feet. We have these, you know, as I show you, I got no toes here. These three right here, it's just very strange. And then here's Kim's. Kim has even, I don't know if mine have the same thing inside of mine, but hers, that's an eroded foot. You see this? That ball right in the back there is the same as the heel bone. That strap going right up there is the same as this strap going up to the bone that sits in this cradle. The strap comes right up to it just the way it does here. And here it is up close. All right, there's your heel bone. There's that strap coming up. And you see how it's all wrinkly looking here? It's flat there. This is tendon. And it's springy. So when it's snapped, it gets this wrinkle zone. These are springs. It didn't have bones like we have. And these springs load up here. And this actually pulls this one in too. And that cavity lets it come in. It's a double torsion spring. Very, very strange. But I see no other possibility. And it's a foot. There's no question whatsoever. That's the heel bone. And it's so similar to this right here. It's just, that's it. This is this. And she found them. She found a whole batch of these, and they were all right in this one little area, just right on the top of the. She just walked over and picked them up. As a matter of fact, I have a shot where she got it from right here. She just walked over and picked it up. These are shards of bone, I believe. You see this? The thing just died and collapsed there. All the body parts. You know, I'm sure she could have collected up a bunch of like little bones and things, but she just picked up the feet. And she picked up a bunch of them, and she sent them to me. I have them here. I've shown this a number of times. That's that bloody heart. And it was laying in a creek bed, and he smacked it where he saw that red thing, and it split open. Phil Harris, who was no longer with us, but he was absolutely thrilled. I mean, I talked to him several years after this, and he said, I remember it like it was yesterday. And I mean, it's shocking. This stuff is shocking to somebody who's just not ready to accept it or ready to even think about it. So we need to get out in the public and have people start thinking about these. You see this? This is a feather. That's the side of the road. I mean, that's a road. This is absolutely enormous. As a matter of fact, he sent me a piece of that. Oh! Oh! Almost lost my camera. Hold on there. All right, here's what he sent me. There it is right there. That's the thickness of that feather. It's a turkey feather. It looks like to me. It's the same dark on both sides. It's just like mine right here. And this is just a little tiny fragment of in between these here. This is not a whole feather by any means. This is like these little bits and pieces coming off of here. So the creatures were enormous. People have all these things. Nobody will speak to them about it. I have Caesar, my buddy here, Caesar Augustus, who's a goose. People laughed at me for years about that. Well, there's his feathers. And now Yale agrees that there was a great saltwater, heavy silicate flood that made exceptional preservation of soft-bodied creatures. It's all out in the open now. It's just that they have a hard time speaking about it because it changes everything they've been saying. So they just keep saying what they've been saying. There's a lung. All right, same thing, flat on that side, died in the flood. There's this heavy silicates filling the holes and voids. And the rest just got preserved in exactly what Yale says, perfect, exceptional preservation. All of these at the same time, and this was not long ago. Not long ago at all. And of course the giants, as I tell you, there's a hair follicle, there's a muscle attachment, there's a sebaceous gland. Look it up, hair follicle. There's a root, vein and artery, and that is big. So these things no one will speak about because they're just too stunning. You know, somebody told me one day, they said, you know, your work is very interesting, but it's jarring. And it is. It changes everything. So until they will start to address it, you're just living in a fantasy world. All right, so this is what I'm hoping for. Something to do with this, but it has to be somebody that has, you know, some old garage or something, or a little one-room schoolhouse or something that they can set this up in, or even a place where, like an auditorium or something, you could charge $1 or $2 or something to get in, 50 cents, whatever. And just set up a stone cutting area where you can get your stones cut open and see what's inside of them. If you want, you know, it's 25 cents, 50 cents or something. You just cut the stone, have a nice day. You covered expenses. I know everything costs money. That's the problem. And money is not easy to come by these days. So, but this is something that should be exciting and fun. You can do it outdoors. You can do it with the kids. And the young people, I find, until they get in the academic system, they are thrilled with this. But as soon as they get in the academic system, they're told not to speak about it. And I'm not kidding you. I had one the other day, got a hold of me and said, the kids were so pushy about these things because they knew it was true. And there was a whole batch of them in this one particular class, I guess. And they kept after the professors long enough where the professor finally said, okay, let's look into this. And that's what we have to do, is break down that wall. At first, as he said, they're allowed to now. They're allowed to speak about it. Right? They're allowed to explore and think. They're allowed to. That's the word that got me there. Now they allow them to speak about them. All right, I guess I'm just going to leave it at this. Somebody has to set up these networks of people that are interested in this. And you can do it online and talk back and forth. That's wonderful. I'd love to do that. I just can't find anybody to organize it for me. I'm not good at that. Like I said, I will participate. I would engage. I have Zoom Pro, so I can have, I don't know exactly how, I only get like 1 or 2 people at a time talking to them. That's it. But I guess you can do big groups. Anyway, I find this is a way to get into reality, a way to be excited about reality and to understand our ancient past. We have so little idea of where we came from and what things are really truly about. And it is spectacular, it's troubling, but it's what it is. Until we discuss it and start thinking about it, you're just living in a fantasy world. And it's not the other way around. This is not the fantasy. The fantasy is none of this stuff exists. And it is here. There's no question it's here. It's just got to be examined. And it all came from this great flood. All these things basically came from this great flood. And according to Velikovsky, this was not long ago, 3,500 years ago. And everything I have here came right off the top of the earth. I didn't hardly even dig for anything. They're just laying around. And I maybe have an exceptional place, yes. It appears to have been on a rise where it was just an area where they were cooked and soaked and all that long enough, and then it drained off and they dried up basically on the surface of the earth, and everything ran off away from them, which was the mud. Flesh turns into mud. That's all flesh is. Mud is flesh. And there's a bunch of different types of kaolin clay is the real fine skin. That's the fine skin. And then you have other clays, which are other areas in the body, and then sandy areas are from the really grip skin, tough stuff. And they turn into quartzite because there's a lot of silicates in the water. And the silicates are there because the phospholipids boil down to aluminum silicates. Phospholipids are your membranes. That's why everything's like this here. You see that? That's a lung. And it's been DNA tested, CAT scanned, the whole 9 yards, no question whatsoever, 0 question. And you see how flat that is? You have to iron it to make it that flat. You can't get a sheet to get that flat. I mean, it's just ridiculously flat. Now, this is the membrane. That was a phospholipid membrane, phosphorus. Now it's feldspar, aluminum silicates. It boiled down. That's all. So there's a lot we can learn from this: chemistry, biology, history. It's the whole package. And I think it's exciting. Everybody I've talked to that's been following this, they say this is exciting stuff. And I think it is. It excited me for many years now. And, every day I feel bad because I cannot respond to everybody. And I mean, I just, there's no way, it's impossible. So somebody's got to figure a way to get a forum going where they can share their findings, like a piece of meat. That's literally a piece of meat. And this stuff is going to be everywhere, literally everywhere. It's not like it's going to be hard to find. So if the people are interested, yes. If they're not, that's fine. But we got to have some way to share these things and be able to show these things. And then, use the Rogerian approach, which means to be sympathetic, to be understanding. Don't be harsh and criticize and everything. I did that for a long time because I was getting no response whatsoever. And that leads to less of a response than no response. It leads to animosity. Don't make people mad and offend them. If they're not interested, that's up to them. But, don't push it on anybody. You can't. Some will see, some won't see, and others don't want to see. So that's the way life is. All right, anyway, that's what I'm hoping for. If somebody can come up with that and start to create a group or something, or some social platform or something that can organize these things and say, in Hartford, Connecticut on Thursday, whatever, at such and such a place, there's going to be a Mudfossil meetup, and it's going to be 50 cents or $1 to get in or whatever. And see if something happens. That's all you can do. All right, I love you all, and I'm hoping for the best out of this. That's the only thing I can think of to get this moving forward. This has been many years now. It's been 10 years at least, having all these evidence and having it just dismissed by the people that teach. That's what's so upsetting about this. If they would at least discuss with me, but they refuse to engage, not a single word comes back, zero. That smacks of a very, very bad situation to me, when you can't rely on your teachers to tell you the truth. That's when you got a problem. And I don't like to be put into the position of having to say that, but that's just what's happened. And the worst ones are the most expensive places, like Yale and Harvard and all the rest of them. And if they want to say, oh, Roger, you can't say that about us, well, then tell me why you won't answer me, why you won't talk about this stuff. All right? Although Yale did, after I presented it to them, a year later, they did put a paper out after I wrote my book, because I was upset about minds in collision. Because their minds were in collision. They couldn't handle it. I called it Mudfossils, Velikovsky, and Minds in Collision. And a year later, they put their paper out that said, yes, Roger was right. Actually, they did say I was right, 100%. It's exactly what I told them. Only my name was never used. And this guy, Derek Briggs, is who I presented all this stuff to. CAT scans, DNA tests, specimens, all that. No, just rocks, just leave me alone, stay away. And then they wrote their paper, never talked about me in the slightest. Now, I think it looks like plagiarism to me. They're saying exactly what I told them. And they say, yes, this could have happened within hours or days. They could have turned into fossils because of this particular situation during this great saltwater heavy silicate flood. And they still don't understand the whole process of nucleophilic substitution, all that. It's very, very weakly presented. But it is my research. See, here it is right here. It says, many of them, outright bizarre in appearance, don't resemble anything of organisms alive today. This was from Lydia Tarhan, the first author of the study. And then they want to know, like they say, was it a failed evolutionary experiment? And basically it was. Everything was wiped basically off the face of the earth and started over again. And you see down here, they say it could have taken animals into rock to occur over a matter of hours or years rather than the usual time frame. And it's because of this particular situation in the underwater storms, they call it. No, it was from a worldwide flood. It's one thin layer worldwide. And they were absolutely flawlessly preserved. Theory about sea creatures. Well, this is it was worldwide. It was not, there's nothing that wasn't covered with sea at that time. That's a flood, a global flood. And this is what they say. And they're saying this was earlier than any of the species that exist today. Not any of them, but they say that there basically it was completely wiped out. And they don't speak about why or how, except that it was a worldwide flood. And that's exactly what it says in the Bible and all the ancient texts. This is what freaks them out. And these are giants. I have the giants. They're not talking about giants. I am. I have them right here in my hands. I have body parts from them. It's a hair follicle. That's a big, big giant. And my big giant that I have a fingertip from, it's a 3-foot-long fingertip. DNA tested. No question whatsoever, human. And that's what it said. They had to wipe them off the face of the planet because they were giants. Now, this all falls into a whole new understanding, and these are the kind of discussions you have to have in a forum. You can't just have this dictated to you. Everybody's got to get their own idea of, does this make sense? Because this is new. This is not something that's settled yet. I feel my stuff is settled, but there's a lot more to it than that, because you got to go back to the ancient myths and how did they turn things, gods and all that stuff. There's a lot to discuss back then, but it all ends up coming down to the fact that we can show a lot of it was factual because of mud fossils. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Hopefully somebody can do this. That's all I can hope for now, because I'm not getting very far at getting people worldwide to pay attention to this. It seems to be the same ones come back over and over. There's a few thousand, but not much more than that. And I can't understand it myself, the lack of interest. But, it is what it is. All right, I love you all. I'll talk to you later. Thank you. Bye.